DocIntegrator, Discover Technology's application that enables the seamless use of SharePoint inside the ServiceNow experience, is available on the ServiceNow store. Unlike other ServiceNow integrations, such as the Integration Hub, the purpose of DocIntegrator is to allow end users to leverage SharePoint as a document management system from inside every ServiceNow application, rather than simply trying to manage SharePoint sites, libraries, and users. Customers who use DocIntegrator generally see a significant increase in SharePoint usage across the enterprise, but luckily, because it works via API, the performance of their SharePoint systems does not get degraded due to a lower workload per transaction. DocIntegrator works with SharePoint 2013, 16, 19, as well as with SharePoint Online. So let's get started. I'm going to begin inside Tasker, the Tasker portal, a collaborative work management application also created by DTech Apps. Once we have seen how it works, we will then show how DocIntegrator can enhance other ServiceNow applications like project and portfolio management, customer service management, and more. What we see here is the Tasker portal, the primary means of interfacing with our collaborative work management application. I'm going to open up an existing task being actively worked on by a number of people to show how DocIntegrator can help your enterprise. Looking at this page, we can see that there's a large amount of collaboration occurring. We have 5 people who've been tasked to put together a document collaboratively. And up here we can also see that one of them has been able to task out to 2 other people to bring them on board to join in the collaboration. Now, what are they collaborating on? Well, inside this tool, regardless of whether it's the Tasker application or whether we're talking about ServiceNow applications, which we'll show you shortly, we have different folders we can add which allow you to present files and documents inside SharePoint inside ServiceNow. So this shared documents folder actually does not have any attachments. We don't use attachments. What it has is a reference to a document sitting inside SharePoint right now. Now keep in mind, we do not override SharePoint permissions. So even if somebody came here and wanted to open up a document, they'd need to have permissions inside SharePoint as themselves in order to see this document. It is also highly configurable, so different teams can keep their documents in different locations, sites, libraries, whatever you need to do. We have very granular capabilities to make sure that everybody has access to what they need and nobody has access to what they don't need. And for the most part, we do that via SharePoint rather than through ServiceNow. So in this case, we can see that there's a hiring policy review here. And the purpose of this whole task, which we're looking at, is the creation of a new hiring policy document. Because we're able to leverage SharePoint, you can have multiple people opening this document at the same time, which lives in SharePoint the whole time, and collaborate and work together simultaneously or in parallel rather than the traditional serial approach. Traditionally, people would have to go in and maybe Jane would go first, make her edits, then send it to Bob, who would do his edits. But leveraging SharePoint, we're actually able to track version control automatically through SharePoint, and we can have people working on the same document, see where everybody else is working on the document, and avoid any conflicts that way. Now, there's more capabilities here, of course. If we were looking for something in SharePoint, which existed there already, DocIntegrator allows you to run a search for everything you have access to in SharePoint. You can have multiple search sources. In my case, I only have one, but you could have many here. This would be different sites, different libraries. And you can actually come in and start running a search. So if I'm looking for an invoice, for example, I just type in invoice and search, and it's going to go through SharePoint and find whatever options I have. It searches inside documents, as you can see at the top. And it also searches document titles if you're looking that way. And then you can easily enough take a document and link it back to the task you are on just by clicking on Link Document. We then see, of course, that this customer invoice has been referenced to this entire task tree. However, if I needed to upload a document, it wasn't yet in SharePoint, I could do that here too without needing to go into SharePoint. I just come in, I select my file. In this case, we'll call it a financial disposition template. And I can upload it. And what's happening right now is we upload the document directly into SharePoint. It never touches ServiceNow, but then it gets referenced back here inside this task tree. So now our documents are safely stored inside SharePoint, where you can have controls if there's PII or if there's any other sort of controls you need to be aware of. SharePoint's better able to handle that, so you can leverage all those capabilities, but still take advantage of the documents and the document management from inside ServiceNow. I'm now going to jump over really quickly to the fulfiller interface of ServiceNow and show you what this looks like with a more traditional ServiceNow application. So I'm going to start with project management. So if we come in and look at existing projects, I'm going to open a Workday to Payroll Automation project. And we've made very few changes here. In fact, all we've really added is a tab here called Project Documents. So traditionally, inside Project, as a project manager, I would need to attach documents here, or maybe paste links into SharePoint if we're already using SharePoint, somewhere inside the body. But with DocIntegrator, I'm able to actually have just a tab here with a bunch of documents stored already inside SharePoint, but referenceable inside the project itself. This gives a couple different advantages. One, if I'm collaborating with people who don't have access to the project, but do have access to SharePoint, they can simultaneously work on these documents or even update these documents for me, and I don't need to re-download or re-upload or reattach new versions, because we can rely on SharePoint for the version control. In addition, it also allows all my documents to be stored securely. This, for example, is a project which is Workday to Payroll Automation. That's HR related. So if my project in this case is to build out Workday, I might need to get a bunch of personally identifiable information from HR. This is an HR document, and these documents are controlled. You can't let anybody in the company see it. So it can be located in a special location in SharePoint with very restrictive controls, but I, as the project manager, can still access it from inside my project, but know that nobody else can unless they're given explicit permissions. We have the same capabilities for every ServiceNow app there is. So if we look at customer service management, for example, we can go into an existing case being worked. And in this case, there's a slightly different use case, but it's going to follow a similar thread. We look here at CSM documents, and this allows us to have our documents stored in SharePoint. This allows the case manager to collaborate throughout the entire enterprise to get the information they need, whether it's getting a legal document for a response to an end user, a customer, or whether it's working with engineering to put together a response to an issue or a problem which has been raised. By having an integration natively into SharePoint, our end users our customer service agents are able to collaborate more effectively via SharePoint throughout the entire organization, but they themselves never need to leave the ServiceNow experience. Thank you.